So welcome to our sharing day. This is the final event, the closing event of a wonderful 10 days workshop, international workshop, within an Erasmus Plus funded project that Carmen will explain us in the next few minutes. This is actually a sharing moment. So we have structured this afternoon in a way that we will all be stimulated to reflect about our future, to reflect about how the future could be better, could be beautiful, could be more sustainable, even thanks to the application of digital technologies. So today, after this little introduction, so who doesn't know about the project will learn a little bit more. After this, we will have a couple of video statements that our colleagues from Greece and from the Netherlands shared with us. So these two video statements by Spiros and Laura will be a sort of introduction, a sort of simulation to think even more about the following presentations. In fact, after this video statement from 1545, we will start to explore the future through 6, I believe, beautiful visions of the future designed by 6 multidisciplinary and international teams. And then, at the end, we will open the conversation to all of you. So we designed this event in a way that everyone could have the voice to say something, to comment, to suggest, to even add other ideas or other visions of what could be the future for Madeira, and not just Madeira. So our effort here was to try to go beyond the limits of this island. So the sharing day is actually an opportunity to share, to create a collective conversation, but it's also for us a moment in which students, so those that participated to this workshop, and the local stakeholders, so all the people that we invited here today from different companies, from different organizations, actually is the moment for you to meet up, maybe start over a coffee or a drink, because we have these 2 moments in our program, maybe meeting up and having a chit-chat. Maybe things can happen and new relations can start, and maybe even work relationship. I think that I will start, yes. Otherwise, the introduction is quite long. Actually, I had to do some thank you. Maybe I do the thank you very quickly. So yeah. I start from the end, and I would like to thank all the people that made this event, the sharing day, but also the 10 days of workshop possible. So first of all, I would thank you, the colleagues from UMA, so Universidade da Madeira, that helped me out with logistics, with organizing contacts. I thank you, the university itself, to allowing us to be in this beautiful environment, in this historical building. I thank you all the colleagues from the consortium of the project that went through the traveling, the crazy traveling that is happening nowadays all over the world. I thank you the students that have been great, because the workshop has been super intensive with many challenges, and we actually learn a lot from you, students, and I hope that you also learn from us. So that was a very great exchange between all of us. And then I have other people to thank, who is actually recording the images of these beautiful days together, so from photography to video. Okay, you really want me to shout? Okay, he doesn't want me to shout. Okay. And so I thank you, Andre, for the video editing and the video in this moment, because we are recorded, and then for the photography. And then I think if I miss someone, I will end up at the end and say, thank you, I forgot someone. Okay. The Sharing Day is part, as I said, of a Erasmus Plus funded project that has the title of Digital Creativity for Developing Digital Maturity Future Skills. So this is a project that started in September 2020 and will end in 1 year time. So we are actually in the core of the project. We have started actually working together during the lockdown, so working remotely in a very digital way. So we actually enjoyed very much to be together for 10 days, being in the same room, having fun, chatting, discussing things about the future. I leave the voice to Carmen, that is from Politecnico di Milano, and she will tell you more about this project.
Thank you, Valentina. I also want to thank you, Valentina, for hosting us and for the Yuma University that organized this event and the activities of the past weeks. So thank you very much. So, yes, this was a lot of effort. So. Thank you. And so, a little bit of the project, just to give a context to the event of today and also to the activities that we did last week. The project name, as Valentina said, is called Digital Creativity for Digital Maturity. We are 5 main institutions in the consortium. So Politecnico di Milano is the coordinator. We have here Marita Canina, our coordinator. Then there is from France, Telecom Saint-Étienne, and here we have Anne-Claire Lagrande and Fabienne Labarthe. Universidade da Madeira, Valentina Vezzani and Elisa Bertolotti. Then our startup incubator, Startup Madeira, Diva Velosapita and André Nobrega. I hope the pronunciation of is fine, thank you. So it was difficult. And then École des Mines, David Delafosse. So I like to also introduce everyone because there is a lot of effort in our consortium in this project. So it's nice to know a little bit of everyone. So the aim of the project is actually to implement and to apply and spread an educational model that aim to develop and to empower some skills that are important, very important, especially in the digital transformation era, to be able to guide and to strategically guide digital technologies, the emerging digital technologies. So we called in our project these skills digital creative abilities. So these digital creative abilities are really important in this digital transition to develop and to empower the new professionals of the future to develop and train these skills in order to face the complexity of the digital challenges. So these skills are both cognitive skills, social skills, emotional skills, so they are also a mindset and a knowledge that future professional has to develop in order to be able to deal with this complexity and face the digital challenges that we are going through. So I mean, we believe that digital technologies is evolving very fast. So in this evolution, it's very important to be able to deal with it and to put people in the center, also not only people but also all the living organisms as we did in these learning lab activities, and to put these needs, the human needs, at the center, and technology, be able to use technology as a means to an objective, to empower this objective. So it's important in this context to also update the educational model. So it's important to update the educational model so that educators, academies, and trainers can actually prepare the future professional to deal with the digital transformation processes that are happening in companies, in organization, and to guide this organization in achieving a maturity, a digital maturity. So in our project, we decide to also give a name to these future professionals. So we call them digital maturity enabler, which, as I said, are these new professional figures that are able to master the emerging digital technologies and to apply it strategically. With considering the ethical issue that technology can open, but also in a sustainable way and with a vision in the future. So the educational model that we developed within the project aims to train the digital maturity enabler and to empower them. To empower them to guide organization in achieving a digital maturity. Digital maturity in organization, both in the organizational processes and in the way that organization also work. So, as I said, we also provide and like to name all these skills and that are not only skills but also values, knowledge with a name which is digital creative abilities that we cluster, let's say, in 4 main dimensions: the cognitive abilities, the digital ability, the cross-functional team abilities, and the strategic vision ability. And here is the educational model that we developed as a consortium in the first year of our work. So the first year of the project was dedicated to develop and with all our knowledge in the consortium this educational model. Indeed, in the consortium we have all different backgrounds that can enrich the model. So we have a design background but also engineering background, a more management background. So all our knowledge in this first year of work together were produced, let's say, this educational model, which it's divided in 3 main phases. So the first phase of the model is called the pre-process phase. And here you can see all the digital creative abilities that we collect and we deemed as fundamental for train the future talent. And that in this phase it's very important to train and in some way empower. The second phase, it's a more operative phase, so operational phase. So it's a process phase where students learn how to strategically apply digital technology. So starting from a challenge, they go through a design futures process that will guide them in generating future technological solutions. And the third part of the model is the post-process phase, so where students should learn how to iterate the skills they have acquired and learn how to apply it in different contexts during their professional life. So this is a theoretical model, but in the project, in order to make it very practical for educators and also students, we developed a toolkit. So the toolkit actually it's the operational tool that to apply the model, and it's has been done on a Miro board that will soon be implemented on our website, so it will be available and open to everyone that wants to use it. And as you can see, you will find inside some pre-process learning activities to teach students how to understand and apply ethical issues, but also sustainability issues with, for example, a tech foresight perspective, and to deal with complexity, to collaborate with a cross-functional team across cultural and cultural and disciplinary teams, and to deal with the complex information. So in this pre-process, in the toolkit you will find many learning activities that empower students to these skills. Then in the toolkit there is also the process the part. So here it's a design future methodology that in this past week guides students in solving a challenge applying digital technologies. So we also provided all the methods that in order to face and learn how to deal with the challenges in a strategic way with also design approach, integrating different competencies that are from engineering, from design, from management, and as we did this week. So the learning labs, Valentina will tell you more about this in a few seconds, but the learning labs are actually the main activities with students to apply the toolkit and to apply the methodology that we've developed in the project, the model as well. So we will have in our project 3 main learning labs. So the first one was here in Funchal. It went from the 5th of July to the 15th, and then the second one will be hosted in Saint-Étienne, and the third one will be hosted in Milan, Politecnico di Milano. So, to conclude, I want to add only that this is the final output of the project. So, the project will deliver an educational box, the DC4DM Edu box, which put together all the main output that we will produce in these 3 of the projects, so the toolkit, the model, and the learning lab format, a vocabulary. There will be some pills that we are recording both with students and with experts. There will be a MOOC to learn more about the model with online courses, and also an open book. So we will release the Edu box with all this output by the end of the project, so at August 2023.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I leave the stage to Valentina.
To stage me, yes. So,
thank you.
So briefly, we introduce you a little bit what happened in the last few days here in Colégio, from the 5th to today, this morning. So the first learning lab has been structured around the topic of food, in particular food as not just what we produce, but is also what we consume, what we distribute, and even how we talk about food or how we communicate. So we wanted to use the island actually as a context, as a place that could be a sort of test bed for imagining, for prototyping ideas for sustainable food systems. So we are on a remote place. We are also in a place that has boundaries because we have all the ocean around us, and at the same time the island allows us to think about the cycles and the systems that how they work now, but how they could work in a better way or circular way. And we reflected on digital technologies, how digital technologies could be enablers of this transformation, not just digital transformation, but also sustainable transformation. So today the goal is actually to design and implement systems that can be distributive and that can be regenerative, so that they can be just, not to just a part of our society, but can be just to everyone, can be just even to the planet, to other organisms, and can be regenerative, so systems that allow not just to use resources, but even to give back and allow ecosystems to regenerate. So we ask these students to work in a very systemic way, to consider the problems, the challenges of today and of the future from different perspectives. So we ask them to step into the shoes of producers, distributors, policymakers, and even plants, animals, bees, and you will see what happened. So we challenge them in a very weird way, but funny way. So we had, as I said before, 35 students coming from Saint-Étienne, from Milan, from Madeira, Funchal, and we mixed them all up. We mixed their expertise, we mixed their backgrounds, we experimented. So this learning lab, this workshop that I was saying at the beginning, actually has been the first time that we as a consortium, as teacher, we could actually observe not just how multidisciplinary teams could work with our model, with what we are proposing you here, but also how the social dynamics, the collaboration dynamics happen within a team of people that didn't know each other, didn't know what to expect, but had a main goal to solve some problems together. Then we invited 6 startups, mainly from Madeira, and I hear it's coming my thank you for 2 startups that actually said yes to this experiment and were with us at the beginning, a little bit in the middle, and now today they will discover cool stuff from the students' ideas. And we provided also 4 macro themes that we thought were relevant for reflecting on sustainability and sustainability in the island of Madeira. So these 4 are agrobiodiversity, and we gave these titles. Agrobiodiversity is our safety net, pollinators are our saviors, waste as an opportunity, forest and water, island lifeblood. So about the 6 startups, I want to acknowledge their time, acknowledge their curiosity, even being brave and saying, what's that? I don't know if I can be useful or if it could be useful for myself. But let's see, let's talk about over our coffee. I think that the results that we are going to see today are really curious. And what can I say? That the majority of these startups actually are already food related, while 2 of them have nothing to do with food, Futar and Musiquence. So linking technology with food systems has been actually very interesting journey for everyone. So let me show you a little bit about the mood in the rooms and in the garden of these days, and actually a little bit about the program. So we started the learning lab, Feeding Madeira, with actually some enriching moment. So we wanted to provide to the participants an idea or information about where they are, where they were, so in the past. So we wanted them to learn about Madeira through the voice and through the telling of some local experts or some people that are actually working even on a policy making level or in a administrative point of view on the theme of sustainability. Some of these faces are actually here in the room. You will discover over the coffee break who they are. And then in the second day we actually introduce the startups. So we ask the leader of these startups to tell us about their story, what's their vision of the future, and even their challenges, in a way to stimulate these young people coming from abroad or not knowing much, neither about Madeira nor about startups in Madeira, actually to try to understand even more where they are. And then what we did. We actually started our approach to the theme of sustainability by being in the field, by going and visiting the forest, led by some biologists from the History Museum of Funchal, and we all went there to understand how it's impossible for us to disconnect completely from the natural environment. Human beings are part of we are part of nature. We are part of a complexity of relationships and co-vulnerabilities that we cannot avoid, we cannot not think about. So we went for walks, we went in the chilly places up in the mountain here in Madeira, but also we went to visit the Jardin Botanico, the botanical garden, and the seed bank to understand about not just plants and seeds, but understand why it's important to take care. So this was the main goal of all these activities. All these activities that we did, actually, I don't enter into detail, but they are part of that pre-process phase of the model that Carmen introduced you. So we try to contextualize even more the methodology into the theme of the workshop, as also the context where we are. So we really understood during the days the difficulty of working together and collaborating, the difficulty of putting together people that are from different backgrounds, that don't know each other, and how hard it is to provide a solution in very few days. So we started to have some warm-up games going on every day, not just to wake up, but also to try to build the relationships and help everyone to feel comfortable and work together. So I hope that these images that you can also find on our social media can give you a sense of the fact that this was a very hard work for everyone, really, 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 but at the same time, there was a bit of fun. And then we used the methodology, the pre-process tools. So here again, we want to give you a sense of what happened in the last week when the teams actually had finally their associated startup. They were working on a hard work research in an intensive way, and share it every day with us and with the whole group. Was a very big common collective effort, because the sharing moments were like kind of natural. Everyone was providing a point of view, a help, a suggestion. So this is a working environment that really maintains the positivity and help everyone to proceed toward a common goal. And yes, the tables end up in the green, end up under the trees, because being stuck in a room was not the best thing for stimulate imagination and ideation. So yesterday, actually, these guys here in the room were actually trying to travel back in time or future in time to visualize, to give shape to their idea of future scenario, future sustainable scenario. And I think I talked enough, and I think we are gonna go and discover these future scenarios soon. As I said, before starting that part, we would like to share with you two video statements. As I said, one video statement is by our colleague Spiros Bofilatos, that originally was in University of Aegean in Greece. Now the news is in the Royal College of Art, so it's a great news for him. And then by Laura Piscicelli, University of Utrecht. After that, we will give the voice to the first three teams that will tell about their ideas for the future, their future scenarios. I give already maybe the instructions to be on stage for the teams. So teams, you will be given this microphone, yeah? So you need to hold it in your hand when you speak, right? And this one, to amplify your voice. So we cannot do this. Right? Okay. So
maybe they can also help each other.
Yes, you can help each other. As we said, this is an informal meeting. We are here to have fun, to open our brains and visions of the future. So we need to be ready for improvisation as well.
Yes, and I also want to apologize to my team because I forgot to introduce myself, Carmen Bruno from Politecnico di Milano, and also Daniela Mandolese. So, sorry. I'm not very good with presentation introduction, so...
Ok. No, non è collegato.
Hello, my name is Spiros Bofilatos. I am a tutor at the Royal College of Art in London, and it is my pleasure to be invited here today to hopefully provoke you and add some things to today's sharing day. Let me say it's an honor to be a part of the Feeding Madeira Regenerative and Distributive Food Systems for Sustainable Island Futures workshop. And especially thank you to Elisa and Valentina for inviting me. So what I want to talk to you about today is about the connection of food and sustainability. In my view and many others, sustainability is seen as a transition away from the contemporary modernist system that has brought about many of the environmental and societal problems that you have been facing for the past 2 weeks in this workshop. One of these is associated with the loss of biodiversity and climate crisis as a danger to food security around the world. And these are two very interconnected issues because modernist way of thinking and doing agriculture is very much connected with two things. The first one is the idea of monoculture. It's the creation of ecosystems where only one plant species survives, and that is the one that we eat. This is the most effective type of grain or the most effective type of rice. And through the use of chemical pesticides, we get rid of all the other plant species that used to live in that place. And we do this by introducing a lot of petrochemicals as fertilizers. And we take this sustainable, self-serving natural system that existed and provided a lot of food into a technical system that needs a continuous human intervention and the addition of dangerous chemicals to make it survive. This also leads to a big loss of biodiversity, both in the fauna and the animals as well, and the flora. And that is a huge problem because biodiversity is also kind of a safety net that keeps ecosystems going and keeps them alive and keeps them sustainable. So this is something that is present in all the aspects of sustainability, be that food, product design, energy, anything. How can we find a balance between the modernist way of farming and its capacity, the fact that it has enabled us to create enough food to feed 8 billion people on the planet or even more? And how can we act as if the natural environment does not only belong to humans, it does not only belong to us, but we have to act as stewards and improve the environment that we've destroyed in the past 200 years and increase the biodiversity, because this is something that is going to look back to us and help us avoid environmental collapse. So hope you find this thought engaging and provocative, and I'd love to hear more of from you as soon as possible. Ciao, and thank you very much.
Hi. Oh. Carmen sta usando il tuo computer, ma
Scusami.
tu sei più veloce questo.
everyone. My name is Laura Piscicelli, and I am an assistant professor in sustainable business and innovation at Utrecht University in the Netherlands. What I do in my research, I study alternative ways of consuming and producing that are more sustainable. So think about the way we currently produce and consume goods. We have manufacturing firms with very long supply chains, often global supply chains, extracting raw materials from earth to produce goods. And these raw materials are often finite natural resources. In the production process also, we see negative environmental and social effects. For example, think about the emissions that manufacturing processes are causing, or think about violations in workers' rights that we see in some countries. And once the product has been produced, it arrives to our homes. And there we basically often just use it for a short period of time and we throw it away. So we create waste. This is often called the linear system, linear production system. And this is something that we want to improve. And one way to make this economic system more efficient is through the circular economy. The idea behind the circular economy is to close the loop, to have resources cycling multiple times so that we don't waste any resource. And how do you do that? You reduce the amount of resources that goes into the production of some products. And when the product has been produced, then you use it more effectively. And how you can do that, for example, via repair. So if I repair something, then it lasts for longer. I extend its useful life. Or I can share something if I'm not using it to make the use of the product more effective. In my own research, I looked often at cases of sharing, which is called the sharing economy. And often the sharing economy is facilitated via digital technologies. Think about digital platforms, for example, in the cases of Airbnb and Uber. Now, what we have found is that these platforms, they contribute to a more sustainable society. They can have very positive environmental and social effects. But on the other side, they are also causing new problems, and we need to be very careful about them. I give you these two examples. With Airbnb, then you have a platform. As an homeowner, if you don't use a house, you can rent it out via the platform. And the platform is very useful because it really allows you, it facilitates the matching between supply and demand. But what we have observed in multiple cities is that having the access to this platform is increasing the prices for homes for local inhabitants. Why? Because if someone with a home can earn more money by renting out the house via the platform, they will not rent out the house to a local inhabitant for less money. And there is another issue, for example, with Uber. What we have observed with Uber is that everyone can become a taxi driver. So if you have a car, in your spare time, you can earn more money by giving rides to people that need to move from place A to B. But what happens with platforms like Uber, that they are just facilitating the matching of supply and demand. They don't really take responsibility to pay pension to these drivers, which is causing huge problems for the drivers. So these are just two examples of how these platforms can create good, but also have negative effects that we always have to keep in mind.
So, is it on? Is it on? Is it on? Maybe? No? No. No? No. It doesn't matter. And so, these two point of view are for you to take, put it in your pocket, or using as sunglasses or glasses to then see now what's next, that are the presentations from our groups, our teams. And so, yeah, I will definitely bring back to Spiros and Laura the results of our conversation. Actually, our conversation today here is going to be recorded and actually will be shared then on media to spread the voice about our project, but also the topics we are bringing here to discuss. So I would like to call on stage the first group.
I want you to form. So that is the kind of advertising that we imagined for the future, in which people will cultivate in farming communities. And even though it looks like a propaganda, in fact, we think that it will be important for the future to recruit farmers. So that is our team. Our name is UForm, and we will explain you our vision of the future and the concepts that we developed these 2 weeks.
So, hello everybody. I'm going to introduce our macro theme and then our topic more specifically. Our macro theme is agrobiodiversity. So what is it? It encompasses many types of biological resources linked to the agriculture. For example, genetic resources, wild resources, livestock, etc. After defining the term, we did trend researches in various fields. And finally, we have selected the topic that we wanted to work most, and we chose the community agriculture. Community agriculture includes the sharing of agricultural land, the sharing of knowledge between farmers and of different generations, the possibility to multiply local markets, and so on. Now, I let my colleague speak.
So our vision of the future is the following one. In 2032, we will strive for autosufficiency and resilience for agricultural communities to create a respectful mindset for biodiversity. So the first one thing that we have to do during a toolkit and during the process was to choose a focal question linked to our topic. And so this is the question. And from this question, we have chosen polarities that we have crossed in order to create 4 scenarios. So this is the scenarios that we thought about. So we crossed low amount of resources, high amount of resources, urban communities, and rural community. So I will let Mikey explain you the scenario that we've chosen to develop our concepts.
Of all the scenarios that we picked, we chose Promethea. This will be a society where there will be high-tech solutions, especially there will be the application of precision farming, which is very effective and very productive, and which uses a lot of drones and machines to do such farming in an autonomous way. Also, there will be the popularization of hydroponics, which is a system that consists on using fish tanks and crops to grow and have a somewhat of a circular economy within those two sites. And also one last aspect that since people now and over time will be a lot more eco-friendly, we also believe that every single space in the city, public-wise, will be used for green spaces, not just for food, but also for gardens. And now, so from this, we have our own needs that we identified. So agrobiodiversity involves in a large selection of species, though we believe, especially in a more industrialized type of farming, that biodiversity is overlooked at times. So with our project, we designed to do a tool that will in a way, spread more knowledge about this and also involve the community and offer them new tools. So our startup is a safety net, which is an institution that tries to produce new tools to improve precision farming, which is a lot more efficient and has a much lesser eco impact. And also it has the point to evolve our local fishermen. This is a parallel of our own project because we're trying to do similar things, especially introduce more precision agriculture and evolve the communities not only for old experienced farmers but also new to come farmers.
Okay, so we believe that in future agrobiodiversity will be more and more important, and we imagine to travel in the future and still a Time magazine that decide to put on its cover our project. Our concept is a U-Farm, and is it a toolkit plus a platform that can help urban farmers, urban community, to discover more about agrobiodiversity. We decided to include some seeds in our toolkit because we think that starting with the unusual plant is a good way to do that. And we design free tools for enabling people in precision agriculture that now we will explain.
So I'm going to introduce the first one, which is U-Pill, as the name. So it's a precision farming tool that is connected to the U platform. It seems to be like a pill that you bring in the soil. This pill collects data from the soil parameters, and the cap of the pill can be pushed thanks to a mechanism based on a spring. And this cap is able to collect data from outdoor weather and give information to the user for each plant for which you have the pill. You can know which one needs water, for example. So it's a good introduction to precision farming for people who are not expert in this domain. So the third one tool is another precision farming tool, which is able to measure digitally the sugar level of a fruit or a vegetable. It's the U refractometer. It's also connected to U platform, and thanks to the platform and the connectivity, it's able to give you an advice on the harvesting of fruits. You know, after we have this third tool, which is not digital. It's a spray, which is composed of a reactive substance. When you use the spray on a plant which seems to have a disease, you can know which disease is the cause, and the platform can give you an advice on which type of treatment you have to use in order to treat the plant. So the diagnosis is indicated thanks to a change of the color of the leaf in which the spray is applied.
So yeah, all these tools, all these precision agricultural tools are connected to the U platform, a space in which all the data coming from the plants, for example, their growing status or their well-being, are recorded and collected. So on the U platform, we imagine also to create an archive of agrobiodiversity. In fact, people will have the possibility, the U farmers, the urban farmers will have the possibility to discover new plant species and also discover the ones that are missing in their area. The platform is also the space where the community of farmers can meet, exchange cultivation tips, and explore more agricultural solutions. This will be also represented by a mentoring project with which people, like newcomers to agriculture, will be put in contact with the senior farmers that can help them in the starting process of their garden. So we are U-Farm, and thank you.
Hello everyone, we are the Waste Up team and our startup is BioReboot. We are going to introduce you our concept of value is our future. Our team was waste as an opportunity, and you can see words here that are related to. And here is the beginning of our research. Then we have made category to organize our idea. You can see new lifestyle changing in tourist sector and waste as a value. We have decided to concentrate our concept on digital nomads. Digital nomads are people who conduct their life in a nomadic manner while engaging in remote work using digital telecommunications technology. We think that it will be increasing in the future thanks to tech. Then we begin to work on what the future of digital nomads could look like, taking into account waste.
Our team was challenged to create a vision of the future for our project. For 2032. In 10 years, we will create value from waste for both locals and nomads in order to benefit mutually from this future nomadic way of life. We wanted to relate the usage of waste and digital nomads because it's a community that is growing a lot in the last few years. So for us as a team, we didn't feel that waste was really waste, so we needed to create a new word to reflect that. So for us, waste was a resource and has value, so we created a word value that is create value through waste. In here we have the diagram that we needed to create that has 4 possible future predictions for our project. In the top we have society-driven, and in the bottom individually driven. Society-driven is a must, like the government imposes that to the people, and individually driven is a choice, it's a want. People have the choice to make to impact the environment. On your left, we have visible waste, and on the right we have invisible waste. I will start with the replug scenario. It's a concept or idea that is already being developed. That is to repurpose the heat created by databases to give energy to houses, so that that heat will not be waste. Then we have the bottom one, reconsider. It's a way to prevent waste itself and to have a less ecological footprint in our planet through the usage of IR glasses. Then we have re-eat, which we want to accomplish the 0% of waste in our planet, and so we use organic waste to create food, 3D printed food or jelly food that fills every necessity that we have, and it's sustainable. Then we have the reshaping, that it's the project that we choose because it's more related to our startup, BioReboot, and it involves using organic waste to create 3D printing filament, to create objects, modular houses, and objects, furniture to fill up the houses for the digital nomads.
In our future, the principal messages are the first one is no luggage here. That represents that when the people travel, they won't have luggage. And this is because when the people have luggage heavy, the planes will consume more gas, and this won't be good for our planet. And the other one will be these digital glazes will be created for people to work and study. This will be like the new cell phone. This will be facilitated to the digital nomads to get to connect with a machine in another country to work in their own home. The next message are the agriculture value, wide value that represent. The waste will be part of the economy because there won't be new material. Everything will be created with old materials, and this will be happen from the 3D printing that will be used and materials biomaterials that come from the decomposition of the waste.
It's yours too.
I'm sorry. Sorry, I forgot. Our slogan is like the waste value is our future, and transforming organic waste into infinitive and reusable materials to create new furniture.
In addition to the policy that we talked about, the no luggage policy and everything, we imagine that will be a new policy for industries that they will not be able anymore to create new materials, more material than already exist in the planet. So they will have to handle the production with the organic waste. So this is the system that we imagine. No?
Both.
Together. So this is the system that we thought about. So, for example, in Madeira, the farms will be producing food and logically scraps, which are the organic waste from agriculture. Our startup BioReboot is going to buy and handle those scraps, and with them create different 3D printable filaments that will have different characteristics and color depending of the waste they come from. So the material will be linked with the local territory. So those filaments will be used to create the belongings and the furnitures of the future house of the digital nomads, which will be like standardized house to be able to be the same in different places where the digital nomads will be moving. And in the other end, so at the bottom, it's a digital nomad who want to travel. All this stuff, as he cannot carry luggage, all his belongings will be stored in 3D files in a cloud, where there will be chairs, books, everything he has, in order to be transposable for his several houses. So these 3D models will be like modeled, but also could be based on handmade products. For example, with the artisan that can make an object, a flower pot or an object, then 3D scanned and imported in the cloud. So there is not only modelized products, but also the common products that we have that are made with hands in the cloud. I don't know if it was clear. But oh, yes. And to illustrate the system, we're going to give you a little story of a digital nomad. So it's Mark, which is a digital nomad, and want to go to work for 3 months in Madeira. So in order to go to Madeira, no luggage, everything, and he has to co-live with local peoples in an extension house, the standardized house that I talked to you, but some of the spaces will be shared, like the kitchen and the living room, etc. So it's have to take place with in a local habitation. So he is looking to several offers several forms that he can join depending on the activity.
After that, Mark can decide which stuff he will have in his modular house. This is based on a total amount of biomaterial filament that he has, and in the platform he can choose your own stuff, also seeing the preferences of his past trip. There are two, this is the explanation. There are two types of different furniture. The one is ergonomic stuff that is comfortable and it's based on its own physical feature. These are made of biomaterials that are structural and are made of agricultural scrap for 3D printing. The other stuff are the ones that are more related with his style and personality and interest, and are made of growing biomaterials that can change over the time of his staying in the islands, and so through his experiences. So in the Mark module we have 3 different layers. The one that is the base one, the module. The second one is made of the stuff that is selected from the platform, and the last one is the layer adding through AR to personalize even more and to interact with this layer too. So the physical layer will be really important to disconnect from the digital overwhelming of the future itself. Then we can see that the object that you can collect can also have a memory of your own experience of this trip, and through that you can, for example, hear the sound of and the memory of the sea and the waves of Madeira through the object. And these experiences could be not only shared with as a memory, but also shared with his own co-living space, but also in a co-working and fab lab, in which you can find not both nomads, but also local artisans of the futures.
So, as Julia said, people would want their house to be personalized. So they could go to Fab Lab, just as the structure we talked about, and see artisans doing handmade products, and they could choose one they like and make a 3D scan of it to store them and to print them for the house. What's quite interesting is that the process is fully recyclable. Both the 3D printing will be reusable and recycled, and the artisans are doing their product using earth and clay, so it's a very sustainable project. Actually, this 3D scan was made by someone of our team using 2 days technology. So it shows that the technology is quite good, and in 10 years it will be even better. So there is quite a high chance that it will happen. So let's follow the story of Mark. Mark arrives in Madeira, and he wants to purchase, let's say, new furnitures or decorations or appliances. But he lacks filaments. So to have more filaments to buy a decoration for his house, he must do activities. For example, he will compost he will make composting in a field, or help farmers doing his job. And to reward him of this activity, he will have more kilograms of filaments to personalize his house and to make it relevant to the island and to his personality.
Thank you for your attention.
Good afternoon. We are from the future, and our team is called BIS, and we are going to develop the macro theme, water and flores. In the present world, we will develop the answer to the following question: How can we make the local human communities acknowledge the importance of the protecting the forests and its ecosystems to make them thrive? How can water be recognized as precious product of the forest and its circles? How should it be managed? And will it be possible for the local non-human communities to have a say on what is to be decided on the future of the forest?
Okay, so we started our horizon scanning, understanding the context and the trends. There's mainly two pillars. So on one hand, we have to conserve the forest to feed the ecosystem, whereas on the other one, we have the population growth and the need to increase the food production through more land and more water. After analyzing all these trends and understanding what is going on in the world, we started asking ourselves, there's smart cities, smart mobility, so why not having smart forest communities? We connect these with new topics like conservation tourism and conservation investing, and then projecting digital maturities. So in our subtopic, we have a vision statement. In 10 years, we will expand the interactions with other species for a deeper integration of our surroundings, because such an interaction is and will be crucial for coexistence of smart forest communities. And in order to explore these, the future scenarios, we have focal questions that investigates how might we change the interactions with plants and other species for a deeper integration of our surroundings. Then, to imagine the scenarios, we came up with polarities that represent uncertain possibilities. This polarity, on one axis, we have multi-species interests as the priority of the future, and on the other hand, human urgencies as the priority of the future. And then on the other axis, we thought, since now we have identified spaces for forests, what would happen if we would have forests all around? So maybe having forests in universities, for example. So we identified 4 scenarios.
Okay, after identifying the polarities, we have created 4 scenarios. So in the first one, we call it as Pangea again. It's more towards the multi-species interests. It's like prioritizing the other species interest in the future and also thinking about a more spread out borderless future. So we started questioning how we can go back to Pangea again, but in a more smart future world. So it's not actually about like connecting all the countries together, but in a smart way, how we can connect all these together to go back to the Pangea again. And also on the second scenario, we have the bubble cities. It's more towards the prioritizing the multi-species interest as well as more and more boundaries and defined spaces. So in this case, we were thinking about a scenario that is more, we are used to a confined spaces, but giving still the priority to the other species in the future. And also we have the third one, the more spread out future, but prioritizing the human urgencies. So in a way, we name this as a human mycelium. So there can be a future that people start spreading out, still prioritizing their needs, but in a more spread out way. And then we have more and more borders and defined areas, and we name this as the greenhouse scenario. So in here, the forest can actually happen even inside a lab, in a bubble, or in a very limited space, in a very identified space. So this is another scenario. So these 4 scenarios are 4 different aspects of the future, and out of these all scenarios,
So all these years, we ideated digital maturities, putting human urgencies as the priority. But we thought that in the future, multi-species interests should lead this process. So we thought, what would mean Going back to Pangea again in a smart world. Okay, so then we started thinking about these scenarios, coming up with future solutions. From these several ideas, we identified some clusters that kept coming up. These clusters led to the identification of three main solutions, and here we have the concept triangle of our solutions. In this presentation, we will go through briefly all the three, but focusing more on the third one.
Yes, so the first one would be biometry, because today encryption is one of the key issues of the digitalization of our society. And one of the key aspects of encryption is to generate randomness. In order to have good encryption, you need to have good randomness. And random patterns exist in nature in many ways, through the tree barks, through the patterns of leaves, through the pattern of branches. So complexity in nature is omnipresent. It's ubiquitous. And one of the most important things about this complexity, this randomness, is that it evolves in time. So rather than fingerprints or password that needs to be changed in order to be secure, this randomness changes. So it's a self-evolving password. The way we could use that is through NFTs. NFTs are non-fungible tokens. So it's non-fungible means that it can't be copied. So using the uniqueness and the non-fungibility of those natural patterns, we could create value for the uniqueness of those plants, and this value could be used for world forest conservation, restoration, and to predict how it will all happen. Madeira could be, as it is a small space and we could monitor and change parameters, it could be a new forest token lab, and before expanding it. The other concept are the rivers in the sky. Because through tree transpiration, trees emit water in our atmosphere. Those rivers are invisible to the naked eye and are one of the most, if not the most, important source of water for nature in the world. If we manage to map those rivers, it will connect people from all over the world to other people from all over the world. Because even if those rivers can have a local scale, for instance, there's an atmospheric river in Madeira from the north of the island to the south. But there's also rivers in the sky from the Amazon to Africa, or from the Southeast Asia to Australia. So if we manage to map precisely and make visualization of this data available to the average man or woman, we can imagine that Australian society, Australian man or Australian companies would have an interest in protecting forest and environments from the other side of the planet. Or African society or African companies will have interest in protecting the Amazon, for instance.
Okay, briefly discussing about the first two concepts, we are moving to our main concepts that we are trying to discuss more. We call it as biosensors. So this is a way of understanding the ecosystem through self-growing sensor networks. So we know that we have this discussion about how plants started talking with each other, how plants, the biologists have discovered that how plants informing each of their other plant species and how they are connected through, and also how we identified so much of research how myceliums and fungi can be translated in a way to understand the language of the plants and trees. So we think this can lead to a new system design that starts generating more data about plant species and their ecosystem and their belonging and their interactions. So these are so much of research evidence that we found. There's so much of research about living fungal electronic devices made of the mycelium composites and how these fungi and myceliums can be used to understand the root structures of the trees and how we can implement these as to understand the language of the trees. And also there are so much of research about how plants communications with each other and all this stuff. So This is a little bit of visualization that we are thinking about this future, but the most important part in this project is what digital maturities will it use in the future. So these are the projected maturities that we are thinking of. We all know that we are discussing a lot more about this IoT these days, but we think there can be a IoT, the Internet of Trees. So this Internet of Trees is a system of interrelated plants, and also not only the plants, it can be with the myceliums and other natural organisms with sensors and processing ability. Because in the research phase, we identified this fungi and other myceliums has the ability to sensor, and it has the processing ability. So we are kind of using this ability with the trees and the neuron system of the roots of the trees to create this IoT system, the IoT technology, and so that we can exchange data with other species and other ecosystem. But this is not the most important, interesting thing. Now people are start thinking about how we can store data in plants, because there's a very big need of storage of data. So we kind of thinking about connecting this stuff in the IoT technology. And also the other important thing, we all know that we are discussing about AI a lot. We think and we know that AI is all about how we are simulating artificial intelligence of human through process. But we think the digital maturity could be the other way. It should be how we start stimulating the intelligence of nature in a other way. So we're thinking this nature's intelligence can be the next digital maturity. And like the professor with his video statement, he said we should give the priority to the plants and to the other species. So this is actually our polarity that we're thinking about, how we can give the interest and in the future to the other plant and species. So we're thinking of this nature's intelligence is a simulation of plant and other species intelligence processed by machines, especially computer systems through bionetworks. And also this could have specific applications of NI, will include myceliums and fungi as the medium of networks who creates the connection between us and the plants. So there can be tree language processing, and also most importantly, the frequency recognition and root simulations. So this is a small graph about how it works together. We have the IoT, and we think these myceliums and fungi as a kind of a growing chips. We know that at the moment what we have is the circuits and the chips, but these are things that you only embedded, and it has a certain defined service to do. But we think of what if we can create these growing chips like the myceliums, and they can go towards the plants, and they can gather data for us, and they can be the mediator for us to communicate with the plants. And then we have the NI, the natural intelligence to learn this stuff. And then we have the data analysis. And we're using this data for conservation, eco-restoration, management of agricultural coexistence, and for future simulation. Okay, how does it actually work with the startup? This is an important question because we got FUTA as our startup. But we think after gathering the data through our project, with the maturities, we can simulate a whole world of a new layer under the plant species. And this can be a new parallel digital world, like we all know metaverse, but why not a rootverse? So this can be another parallel world that we haven't discovered until, but can exist. So what the interesting thing is, this system design will generate around this parallel world, and this can give so much of predictable data which can generate so much of value. And also in a way we think a certification system can be also another business model for the startup. We'll explore a little bit more in the next slides. So this is basically how it's connect with the smart forest community. So we think this will change the way we connect with other species in a prioritizing their need in a smart way. Example, once we get the data to the communities, they can take the decisions in the agriculture, still respecting the priority of the plants and their soil. So this is how the whole system works. We have the IoT and the Internet of Trees. It starts learning through the nature's intelligence, and then we have the data analysis. And in the startup phase, what they do is they create the mediator, and they started visualizing this parallel world under the plants through simulations. And this data can goes to farmers, the agri-businesses, and also to policymakers. And farmers and agri-businesses can create their agri-products through this data. They can take the decisions. And also in their products, we think we can give a certification to them that these plants and these agri-products are grown respecting the nature's need. So at the moment, we all know there's trend for organic farming. We really go to buy organic food, but we think we got a label from the future. It's called this product is multi-species interest respected. So we think this can be the next trend for people to make with the food system. When they are buying products, they can decide whether they are going for the organic product or something beyond that, a product that really respected the need of the nature during their process. Okay, so after getting this data, what is the effect on agriculture? We can use this data to restore and degrade the parts of the landscape and enhancing the productivity on the most fertile land and integrating different production systems such as livestock, crop tree production, or watershed management into the same landscape. And okay, finally, how it connects with Feeding Madeira. We believe Madeira can be the best pilot project to create this agriculture based on smart forest community, where we imagining a future where farmers of Madeira take agricultural decisions based on other species' interests, and people buy agricultural products that respected the interest of nature over human urgency. And this is a little bit of magazine from future, and we have this IoT times, and they say I can't stand any pain anymore, I'm going to kill myself. So why not we can give some counseling to the trees. Okay, this is about our whole presentation, and thank you very much. The basic insight, actually, it's all about this. These quotes were there from the very beginning. Maybe it's the time to start listening to these quotes and adapt this into the new way of digital maturity, because we believe in this. The Waters Murmur is the voice of our fathers and their fathers. Thank you.
It's off?
It's off.
It's off.
No, it's on.
Now it's on. 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 Give me the other one. It's not working. Yes, it's working. So, thank you, guys. So, I would try to stay in the schedule. So, yeah, I would suggest to move toward the coffee break for our questions and comments and congratulations, because otherwise we don't stick with the schedule. Yeah. So the coffee break, unfortunately, is not in this courtyard, but we need to go on the other garden on the back of the building. So maybe Andrea, you can help us to find a way. It's a really rich. I saw it. I had a glance. So let's not get lost in that. Okay. So let's try to return here in 15 minutes, so we can then continue with the other 3 groups and have time enough to actually have a recorded conversation.
ready to start the second session of future scenarios? So now we are planning to have other 3 teams, and then we will open the conversation here in the room, making the double mic going around. So welcome to Team Bombos on the stage, please.
So, hello everyone. We are the team Bombos, and our startup is Musiquence. So our macro theme is pollinators. I will start with a thing that everyone should know, is that 70% of all crop species depend on pollination. So pollinators are vital to our well-being and the survival of nature. So who are the pollinators? The pollinators can be animals and insects, the winds. Some plants can do an auto-pollination, and there are some technologies that can do it too, and even a human can do it. So the most important pollinator is the bees. Unfortunately, the population of the bees is declining, of course because of us humans, especially because of climate change and intensive agriculture, use of pesticides. So we start to search everything that is related to the pollinators. We found information about technology, communication, issue about pollinators. So a lot of young people. So we have made a lot of connection before the research that we made. And a lot of young people have eco-anxiety today, so we think that in the future we need to live in more harmony with nature. And we have been interested in biocentrism and biomimicry. So the challenge of the future is to try to live together and learn from the nature and try to communicate with it. So we realize that living in a symbiosis between humans and non-humans is a very important thing. We need more solidarity and shared space for everyone. For everyone can be the society. So also we connect our trends with our startup, finding some new interesting trends. So there are the main trends that emerge from our research.
So regarding all of this, we came to the conclusion that we need to take care of each other. And with that in mind, we selected our theme, symbiosis between human and animals, and did our research on that. So for the next step, we needed to do a vision of the future. And we know that this might look like a lot to you right now to take in, so just let's break it down a bit. So our future are in 10 years from now. And we want to create a symbiotic experience between humans and non-humans. So in this way, we can stimulate dialogue and create a new respectful, balanced relationship. And of course, this will be based on a biocentric approach. So our main goal is to create a common survival and a living type of experience and relationship. Like we can have all of this. So I think it's better for you to visualize our vision of the future. For the next part, we wanted to create a scenario matrix, and for that we needed to think of two axes for that, so we could connect the symbiotic experience. And it was a hard job to do, this part. It was kind of a hard job, but we came to the conclusion that we should focus on the type of dialogue between humans and non-humans, and we took an emotive approach and a more functional approach, and also the ambience they're in and the ambience they communicate. We thought that with boundaries could be a good way to go. So a more reserved place, like a garden or something like that, and also without boundaries, like a forest or something.
Thank you. So after that, we try to envision thanks to the polarity axis, for different scenarios. So the first one is multi-ecosense. Multi-ecosense goes to cross emotive without boundaries. What does it mean? It means that we envision an holistic emotional vision that where information, and in particular the mutual exchange, is fundamental to create a non-verbal communication based on sense, and in particular will enhance the emotional part. The second one, cross-functional and without boundaries, and it's called traits of life. Traits of life because it really take in consideration what is life and also what are the living beings. In particular, it values mutual education between humans and non-humans, and the training of and educate using biomimicry, and in particular thinking to a universal language. The third one go to cross emotional and without boundaries, and it's called nourished soul. Nourished soul goes to envision the values of intimate relationship, and in particular the fact of creating a sense of community and a share of mental well-being, not just for humans but also for the other species. The last one is feeling harmony. Feeling harmony is the cross between functional and with boundaries, and has been imagined to collaborate and in particular view the things as a symbiosis realized in a respectful relationship. That means that they will have a sharing experience without boundaries and create a community and a common space. After that, we have tried to understand which was the scenario that was best supporting our values as designer and also our vision of the future. And so we choose traits of life.
Now, we have here an example of a newspaper from the future, from 10 years. We will talk about the first page. In the first page, there were our representations about the pollinators. We want to create a relation between non-humans and humans. So in 10 years, we want to be able to give them therapy like we do to humans, because they work too much and they can be overworked. Still in the first page, we have this new bank that takes us to the past. Like we have the seed bank, and now we want to do something like a memory bank. So our future can see what we did here. And that experience can be more enjoyable due to new technology that give us taste and smell mixed with the memories. The second page. So we have here again the combination of therapy and meditation, where we can also use new technology to improve the experience. Here, Still in the technology, we want to improve the way we see, we hear, feel, and touch, and also smell in the very smooth event. So to give us a better experience of all the things we do in a daily.
So now our concept is sensitiva, a new experience for getting in touch between the species. Which are the species that are involved? Obviously humans and animals, but also plants, technology, and pollinator that are ours, the species that we must save. So sensitiva is a new experience for feel what other species feels. So we are trying to understand the other experience for having a good understanding of their needs and feeling on our skin. So we want to amplify our senses and using augmented reality. We have 4 main functions. Memory banks, that is a banks in which we put our memories, and so we create new memories, and we can revive this memory, not only the human ones, but also the pollinator one, the plants one, and also plants can revive our memories. And the last function is global trends, in which we can feel the development of the globality. Why we are trying to do this? For having a deep mutual understanding and for sharing our memories, but also for keep our traditional lives. So in doing this, we are trying to involve also the elder part of the population of our community for giving more value to our traditions.
Thank you. Okay, so let's focus now on the technology. And let's try to imagine and to figure out what kind of devices we could have in the future. But first of all, let's define what is the technology linked with our concept. We can define technology here as a medium of shared language and symbiosis creation. So first of all, let's have an overview, a general overview about the concept. And for that, we need an enabler, so the government. The government here is meant to make links between all the other entities to lead at the end to a certain kind of symbiosis between human and animals. So let's see now what kind of features we could find on this kind of devices. So first of all, we have some optoelectronic devices. This is something very common and very important on those devices. We have other kinds of sensors, like temperature sensors, like brightness, etc., motion sensors. After that, thanks to these sensors, we will collect inputs. So we will have like body temperatures, like the presence, etc. So this is the same kind of things. We have the nerve simulation or the user energy exchange. So this could be a little bit abstract nowadays, but this is some input that we could collect in the future. After that, we save all these inputs on the cloud. So we chose the cloud as an example. And last but not least, we need to update the memory bank. After each information that we collect, we will update always, every time, the memory bank. And here we have the return of the book. So here we have a visual example of the kind of device that we could use in the future. So this is an extra tool for the community. For example, if we have a fire that occurs in the region of Madeira, we will receive a notification about the rate, so this is a diagram, about the rate of pollinators that are left or still alive and active. And this is something very important because thanks to that we can follow the evolution of the concentration of the pollinator of the island, and this is something very interesting.
So a fast sum up of the key concepts that we have just presented. So first of all, creation of sensitive technology for humans and non-humans. That is fundamental because we want to communicate not just as a human perspective, but also from a non-human perspective. The second one is symbiosis, because of course to create symbiosis and in particular to create a shared memory, we need both, and we need a really strong contact between the two elements. Third one is a creation of a commoning network between humans and non-humans in the vision of common and sensitive sharing and evolution, because the main purpose is not just communicate, but is also evolve both, so human and non-humans, in a shared knowledge, communication, and information. So that's Sensitiva, and merci, grazie, obrigada. Thank you.
Hello everyone. We will be present today the work that we did during these 2 days. Just before talking about our work, let me present the team of the team with Filippo, Giuseppe, Marwa, Zakaria, and so Lori. We work on the theme of water and forest. So, Madeira have a national park we have to protect because there are ecological riches, intact ecosystem process, and play predominant role in maintaining the hydrological balance on the island. Today, only 20% of untouched forest remains on the island. Without this type of forest that we find in Madeira, that wouldn't be water. Without this type of forest, without fresh water running through the island, it wouldn't be possible to neither farming nor living. Apart from its dazzling beauty, this natural puzzle of shapes and shades of green reveals all the dynamism that is typical of a balanced ecological system. The forest is linked to the destiny of Madeira, from the condensation of the frog, the retention of water in the leaves, branches, and tree trunks. The precious water is channeled to a vast network of levada for consumption by the population.
So to start the process, we did a little connection between a lot of trends and our main subject, so water and forest. And here in the middle, we can see that there is some trends that are linked to both the two subjects. And between all those trends, we choose to interest to this one, new way to access water. And then, thanks to this trend, we choose this question, so our topic, and we will interest ourselves in how allow all the people for the island to access to fresh water, and so to go deeper in this topic, we have some keywords. So here 3 keywords. So the first one is about social equity. So with this topic of social equity, we want to see how to give to all people the same water, the same quality of water, and the same food, and your social rank, it doesn't matter. And also the second subject is about community-centered approach. So here we want to all the decisions that we will do in the island have to be done with the people, for the people. And finally, the last one, the sustainable behavior. All the decisions that we will choose and that will be done in the island have to be done with a lot of respect for the nature and for the biodiversity of the island. Also, we search from some alternative futures, so for shared values that are really important for us to lead with a success or subject. So for example, we have here, as I said before, the community-centered approach, but we have also education, that is really important to educate children and people to be really respectful and to have some sustainable behavior. But also we have to be confident and to use the AI for managing future complexity. And finally, we ended this first step by realizing some news from the future. For example, the first one is about the forest that will be, maybe in the future, I hope, will take the place that this forest lost during the centuries. And the second news is, for example, about waste water that can be turned into drinkable water. And finally, the last one is about the shared spaces that are spaces where people can share their knowledge and create a respectful space with who respect the nature and all the people behaviors.
Questo, grazie. So, this is our vision of the future. In the future, we are going to have to develop new shared habits in order to enable all people to access to fresh water. Because probably in the future there's going to be a scarcity of hydrological resources. We as a group ask ourselves, how are we going to develop these habits? And to do so, we developed 4 different scenarios. These scenarios are guided by 2 different variables. The first variable is the approach we intend to follow to let people develop these habits, which can be education about water consumption, or control of people's water consumption. The other variable is the awareness of people that are developing these habits, which they can be conscious or unconscious. In the first scenario, we work with conscious education. So there is a focus in the schools and new interaction inside the school. So people develop new habits through education. Let's say that we abandon the usual kind of room and lectures and move to a more fluid type of education. In the second scenario, we are talking about conscious control. So people develop new habits through regulation. We call it ecological credit system because we imagine to apply a type of credit system where people are rewarded or penalized in base of their sustainable behavior. The third scenario we have a little fun with because it's the more dystopian one. People learn new shared habits through unreal living. So it's some kind of future dystopia where technology allows people to live in an unconscious state of mind and consume less resources. The last scenario is the one we decided to work with because we found it to be the most interesting one. People develop new habits through education in an unconscious way. We call it learning by places. So people develop these eco-friendly shared habits in shared spaces by everyday interaction with their surroundings. So domestic spaces and public spaces become the drivers in behavioral design. There is a shift from object design for behavioral change to spatial design for behavioral change. So to explain it in a clearer way, spaces become the new teachers and they teach us these sustainable habits. So, since we are working with phytoalgae, we ask ourselves which will be the role of the algae in the evolution of spaces as a way to educate people's behavior.
So, just to sum up all the touch points of the concept, we have to find a new way to access all the people to fresh water, but also we have to use algae as a resource. We have to work with the social issue, like social equity, public engagement, and a community-centered approach. We have to manage the digital innovation, but also the concept we saw before of the relationship between user and places and the behavioral change. We have started our research with an analysis of the possibility of the algae. We have shown that they can be used as a biomass, as a food and chemistry, as a way to purify both air and water, and can be used as a product. We have decided to focus our work to the algae as a water purifier because it's strictly related with our topic. Then our concept is low relief. It's a structure that it's composed in 3 parts. A water harvester that can harvest water from rain or fog. A structure inside made by algae that can purify this water. And then in the lower part, a water collector and dispenser that can allow all the people to access to this fresh water. We think that there is a strong idea behind the concept because the structure works at the same wave of the island of Madeira because the water harvester works as the tree that collect the water from the fog during the day. Then the algae purify and catch the water as the forest, and then the water collector use the water as the south of the island do. We have decided to place our structure in the porch of the Mercado dos Laboratórios because it's the place where people from the island and tourism meet together, because there is different culture and because different tradition merge with innovation. Also because the Mercado is the heart of Madeiran community and because there is a strong bond with the local food.
So as we saw, the scenario that we chose to talk about is learning by places, which it is to shift from objects for the behavioral change in order to use a special design for this behavioral change. So basically, we want to raise awareness for people in order to about the water life cycle of Madeira, and also to get used to algae, and people start discovering algae as a resource so that they can pick it up from the Mercado and use it and recreate the same purification method in their houses. So the main idea here is that people learn from public spaces and introduce it a new behavior in their everyday life. So therefore, we wanted to create a living design architecture made with smart materials, organic designs, and biomimetic methods in order to create this symbiosis between nature and cities. And the main point or the goal of us is to put nature's lessons into practice. So now I'll be talking about the interactions that we will have in the place. So interactions first with the building itself, with low relief. So inside this building, everyone can access to the fresh water. The poor, the rich, the local, the tourists, everyone can really access and drink water from this fountain that could be inside the low relief. Then we have the digital interaction. So the digital interaction, we decided to put immersive glasses inside the low relief so that people can learn from it. So basically, they can learn the natural phenomenon of the low silver forest of Madeira, and also the water harvesting, the low relief system, and how it works and what it represents for the community. And then they can understand or learn how to implement this in their domestic environment step by step. For the last interaction, it's the interaction with the space itself, which is the Mercado. So we decided to put it in the Mercado, and people, how we imagine things in the future is that there will be so many booths where people can take the algae from it, and in order to create the process, and also booths where farmers can sell edible algae because they are used used to this new source. So to conclude, our startup is Fit2Algae, so this is why we shift our project of the to the future of algae. And also, we wanted to say that there is another alternative, so not only using algae just as biomass, but also as an alternative resource for food and also for purifying water. And the relation with feeding Madeira. So we had a vision of the future of Dolores, Silva, and forest, and we decided to create a building based on this scenario that it really happens, and in order to create it for the future. So last but not least, I want to thank the group's members, the teachers, and Madeira for hosting us. Obrigada.
Hello everyone, we are the team Beta Pat. We are Bibi, Luisa, Emmanuel, Camilla and Ilaria. Our macro team is agrobiodiversity. Agrobiodiversity today is very threatened about for different causes, like the abandonment of the rural area, and so the loss of knowledge from farmers, from people that live in that area. And there are many challenges about this topic. We try to focalize our research about paper website in four topics, very related with agriculture, so technologies, food, social, and the environment. Just to try to find this cluster and link the clusters with the macro megatrends, and to discover like a domain map, like this one. That better focalize our attention on two different topics that are the space, new spaces, and the food cultures.
Well, the domain map shows us that we are facing two main issues: the lack of space and how will we manage biodiversity in the future. So we imagine 4 scenarios based on this statement, and to work on these scenarios, we have 4 polarities. On the vertical axis, we have evolutive biodiversity or conservative biodiversity linked to food culture, and on the horizontal axis, we have centralized and decentralized linked to the space. The first scenario is about a vertical city. There are several levels in the city, and they communicate each other in order to create new species. Then, to evolutive and decentralized space, we imagine a shuttle where there is a crop with several seeds, and this shuttle goes in space, and it lands on a planet, and the crops grow depending on the condition of the planet. Then, for conservative biodiversity and centralized space, we imagine a museum inside small cities, which allow to protect old species and also educate young people about biodiversity, the biodiversity. Then, for conservative and decentralized, we thought about small bubbles where people cultivate local food, and it allows them to be self-sufficient. So we choose the first scenario, and we will describe it more precisely by following the projectual question: how do you imagine the future of Madeira's food culture?
So we imagine a future where people live more concentrated in cities and vertical buildings in order to give more space for forests to regrow. Here we have an example of one of these buildings, which are full sustainable. More in the base, we have food production in the food labs, also using 3D printers. More up, we have service, and going up, we have more private homes and space for people to relax with family, friends. And also around the buildings, we have vertical gardens and fruit trees. And more than up in the roof, we have open space where people can enjoy more the nature. These physical spaces will be all connected with a digital world, and that collects all this knowledge from the communities. And this digital world will from times to times group this knowledge and create digital museums where then people, everyone, can access and enjoy in any time.
May the 5th. Dear Ilaria, from this spring of 2052, I've decided to move to Madeira. The island is one of these places where they've decided to build those vertical cities so they can have the wild forest to grow back. It's very nice to see so much green spaces around in front of my windows. The city I've chosen to live in is called Beta Verde. It is a very plant-based orientated, which is nice. Hey, do you remember the old notebook where Grandma used to keep all her recipes? Well, I finally had the time to upload it in the Spacies, so if you want to download her old Bolo di Caco, you can go on this link. I can't believe they still use outdoor gardening in the 20s. Anyway, enjoy our grandma's flavors from when we were kids and take good care of yourself, Louisa.
Okay, so moving in deeper in the digital system we studied, this is Spacies, the digital system that connects people with interaction and relation that takes place in the metaverse. The system is easily available to everyone because it's developed like a platform that could also be converted into an application, and it works like a real digital museum. Basically, his work is to welcome people to a place beyond the tangible boundaries of our existence that hosts the knowledge of the food culture of our planet. And so the users can take place in this landing page and then decide what they want to do, to go to see seeds or foodology, or to maybe have a more deeper history about the food culture, or maybe to see the recipes of the past, or maybe contribute, creating one another. It's possible to then arrive to the archive and then decided to download or upload the DNA that I needed. In that case, we found out our seed, the beta patula, and it's really easy, downloadable, and useful for our device. In this case, as I said, the user can decide to download the DNA and use it for their own what they want, basically, to use it for their food, or to upload and contributing to evolve that specific species. In the case of the downloading, the user can use this device, the 3D scanner and printer, where he can easily create food, and in this case, the ice cream, that can taste as seeds, food, that can have the ancient taste of one time, like when we were a child, or to have a taste that more related to future, and enjoy his meal. So about signals of the future, we encounter, for example, an example of urban advertising that is related to Spacies, that invites the user to take a relation to this platform, to this digital museum. But we found not only this one.
So, do you want to try our latest ice cream? Come to the free club on floor 374, where you can print your own ice cream with the maracuja room flavor.
Thank you.
We are done with the future scenarios. We have been in 2032, 2052, I don't know, many years. So I need to say that your work, teams, people, has been amazing. At the beginning of all this workshop or learning lab, we were all like this, oh my God, what are we going to do? Or even 2 days ago, what does it mean to design for 2052? Or stuff like that, right? So there were lots of moments of questioning, crises, and so on. But you have done a great job. I think that even the people that were not involved in this workshop remain quite surprised of what can be done in only 10 days, or let's say less, because we spend some time in actually learning about each other, learning about the island. So in the end, you actually starting your design process on Friday night or even Monday. So you have been amazing, really. Congratulations. And I would like the audience now to take the mic and comment, suggest, give their impression. Even the startups that are here with us, some needed to leave. Please. The same game.
So I just want to say that it was a nice experience, but as a student in engineering school, I would like to see more technical aspect rather than design and design, because sometimes it's more linked with philosophy than something that that will be more feasible. I think more technical aspect, I think, should be very great.
Thank you for your comment. That is actually a good observation. We can say that as this is an experiment, we take this completely into consideration now. Also because this learning lab is testing 10 days of work, but the methodology and the process itself can be expanded according to how much time and the type of team that is put together. So thank you. This is actually a great observation. You want to say something, Marita? No? Comment?
Just I think that if you have more time, could be explored like technology and so on. But now is just we ask you a vision of the future, and so it's not so technological, but you did a great job because you built a very interesting schemes of the technologies, and then you have to consider that technologies in 10 years will grow very fast, and so you have to think about we start here, but in 10 years how many changes will be in the technological view. So it's just experience, and we have to think about this and so on. But I think there are also this part in your work. Yeah, a little bit, but also, I think also as engineering you have to think about the future. So is you know to do your work, but maybe you have to project yourself in the futures, And this is a good exercise, I think. Yeah, I think, but also for designers, not just, because for designers, maybe it's too envisioning time and collaborate with you, not just with you, but all the people that has a different background. I think is interesting to create something concrete. Oh.
Hi. No, it was very interesting and exercise that took us to the future and sometimes is kind of scary, I would say, but amazing at the same time, brave new world. I have two questions. One is at a technical level. I was curious how is going to be the process of making food through a 3D printer. So I don't know if someone can explain this transformation from DNA downloaded into actually food. I'm not an engineer. I work in marketing and communication, so I have no idea if it's possible, and if yes, how you do that. And the second one is, I understand is experimental exercise during these 10 days, and I would like to know what's the outputs of these imagination and visualization process after the experience. Is it going to be, I don't know, presented to some people who can finance the ideas, is going to move forward at some point, or is actually just the experimental exercise that matters? Thank you.
So maybe about the printing food, which team printed in, now I forgot, yeah.
Okay, so about the printing DNA, we took the possibility to print something because we know that nowadays is a technology that it's really used, and we have to project ourselves in the future. Now we can print materials of very different consistencies and density and origin. So what could be possibly printed in the future? And we talk about this DNAs because we took in consideration the possibility to engineerize food and species. So we took it to the end that why don't we mix that together? Maybe it's something very much projected in the future, and that's why we took in consideration 2052 and not 2032. But it's like a kind of a mental exercise, because I think that nowadays for us it's normal to see 3D printers, but projected 50 years ago it was something that nobody was used to think about. So it's just a consideration, it's just a play a game, but it was something that we really like it and we wanted to go through it, and taking a little bit funny just to associate it with ice cream. That is something really common for us, and just to say that it's something that could be possible in everyday life. And I don't remember the second question, but okay.
I can maybe answer a little bit the second question about if these projects are going forward. So as we said at the beginning, so this was an experiment for everyone, basically. So for us to understand if this methodology makes sense, if it works, if it can be brought into companies, or if it can work in classrooms. So there was a learning process, both from the students' point of view and teachers' point of view. So we didn't have any expectation in terms of solutions, in terms of, okay, we are going to produce solutions for these startups that welcomed our invitation and didn't know even what to expect. So we needed to see that, and today we saw the results. So even I can confess that I didn't have the time to work along with the students. Marita, Carmen, and Daniela, and Claire, and Fabienne, and David somewhere were actually sitting down with them and then keeping an eye on the process, much more than me. So I think that many things were a surprise anyway for all of us. So I don't know, remain in the hands of this team and take out their entrepreneurial skills and keep dialoguing and keep finding their way to develop. So there's no limitation about that. Of course, if we are aiming at 2052, it's more challenging to convince, to finance, but the project is also about this, how to even make companies to see the potential of digital creativity, digital transformation. So it's all a big cultural work to be done, not just in the education, higher education, but also then even in companies, and try to trust the process and try to see if there is a way to innovate in a more creative and crazy way even. Yeah.
Can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
Hey, there's a really big trend, like a contemporary science trend, and also creative writing trend, or even designing future scenarios trend, where people just gather and project fabulations of future scenarios. The main purpose is not to produce something palpable, but just to imagine futures, because we live in a very narrow ideation of future. Most of us thinks that we are condemned, that the planet is going to end. So they kind of raised the need to create spaces for dreaming the future. It doesn't mean that the dream will happen, but if you dream really, really far away, maybe you can envision possibilities. And then the market kind of has some attention for the people that are doing this, and just goes there and overlaps. So what's the technology that we have now? How can we develop to change this or that, So the purpose wasn't to produce something, but just
My question was, is it going to a platform where the market and all these companies are going to see? Or
we are
going to stay here in this room?
But
That was just a question.
I'm not sure. I think this is going to be public, but the people that work on this, they are always putting out information. We are just students, and we just came to learn these tools, so also we can futurely apply it in our works or workspaces. But the information will be available. So.
Many design studies or association are now trying to apply this in. Oh, sorry. Many design association or companies and so on are trying to apply these future studies because and this methodology is merging between design thinking and future thinking. So it's not easy to trust in this process, and so also companies have to be convinced to use this and to create a vision, not a real product. So it's quite a long training also for companies, but in this moment is a very useful tools for company.
Okay, I will combine my comment from the three. The first one that was very nicely observed, and the second one about the food manufacturing with 3D printing, and now what our colleague says there. So I will speak as a product designer, industrial design professor. Okay, so I think I came here to see the output, to see if I can gain some, I don't know, some inputs for probably next semester, because this, what we do, scenario creation, is fundamental in product design. So it's actually a very basic skill that those students here who have done product design with me have mastered this. So I think the first comment was very interesting, because we have here engineering students and design students. So because this is a design funded project, probably we start from the path of design, and then we add engineering as a cake, as a layer over it, okay? But I think our colleague there was saying it would be nice to have it the other way around. Start with engineering and then add creativity as a cake over it, as a layer over it, which is also very, very interesting. But if this was a technology-funded, engineering-funded project, maybe we could have taken that path. And that is also something that I am, as a designer, can say we are also guilty. We should participate more in engineering seminars, projects, because they have their feasible and, like he said, more practical approach. Now coming to that idea of printing food, which was very interesting. Now we'll go from my teaching into gastronomy design. We teach food design. So you might want to go and look into YouTube, where chefs actually, now what is happening with the design industry is food is going to be artificial in the very near future. Protein, for instance, yes, we will print protein because we cannot sustain farming practices. So there are chefs who are 3D printing. So chefs are learning product design, okay? It's very easy to find in YouTube. There are a lot of videos. And you will see chefs are perfecting textures, colors, flavors. So chemists, food professionals, product designers, engineers, you see, chemical engineers, they will come together. So now what is occurring is this computational era that we are entering, Industry 4.0, yes, which is about artificial intelligence, 3D printing, clean energy, and then slowly transitioning by 2050, which is where these scenarios are pointing to what? Industry 5.0, so biotechnology, okay? So I think what we are trying to say here is in the very near future, you cannot be just one discipline, designer or marketing or engineer, you will have to be several. And we have had these discussions as well. Probably formations in the universities will need to be not only design, but you might have to study design and engineering or design and medicine, so that you could be a doctor who can design or a designer who can medicate, you know. So I think this is somehow going to be a tension between several different professions that we might need to confront in the near future. But I see that there's a lot of product design happening here. Yes.
We would like to hear some voices that are not related to design or no, maybe Gabriella, you want to say something? You are the only, with you. Wait for the mic, Sorry.
Well, no, first of all, I think for me it was very, very interesting to listen to all of you, because it really takes me out of my daily life. And it's good to stop a little bit and to listen to all this creativity. And I think we live in these days, it's a lot about design. It's all about imagining. It's all about dreaming. So I think it's very important to have these workshops. If it doesn't come out, a palpable result, still is good to think about it. Just go through a little bit, look again the presentation, just think it over again. Yeah, I think as food's concerned, it's going to be a huge. It's going to be dramatically different from what we know now. So it was a good approach to hear that we can actually print ice cream. That means I will have to close down my business, but no, maybe we can evolve. We can combine all of this. I think that's basically what we've heard today, is that we can combine all these different areas in the future, which is good. I think as a community, that makes us closer to each other. So, yeah. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who want to say something?
like this.
Yes, just another comment about food. We've said a lot of things that are true. Food is becoming artificial. Food is becoming medication. That's a very important trend. We didn't explore it that time. We'll leave it for another sequence, but it's a very strong momentum in industry toward mixing food and medication. And again, it opens more futures that we will have the time to explore, hopefully.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of innovation happening because in the University of Madeira we are investigating this, and I think you guys might want to go on the internet. For instance, medication, gender specific medication, okay? Getting your nutrients customized to your medical condition by food. Artificial intelligence embedded in food. Barilla, an Italian company, is already doing this. 3D printing pasta as per your design. You design it on a computer model, Rhino, and they 3D print it for you. I think it was shown in the Milan Design Week. And for the future scenarios, you might want to look into boomer versus doomer. Okay? So boomer is the boomer generation who are optimistic. So all the future scenarios they create are always optimistic. I believe more in the boomer side, okay? Although I'm in the Gen X, so 80s and 90s. Gen Z is the doomer generation, okay? They are more critical of the future. So they see it more as a negative, dystopic. Boomers see it as a utopic. Okay, so most creations, including, this comes from the gaming industry, video game industry. So you might want to see, utopic futures and dystopic. Okay, nobody knows which will occur, but I think it will be a mix of both. But it's not all bad, no way. Food is not running out. There will be more food than we can ever eat. Food production is going to explode exponentially. Okay, we will have so much abundance of food that it will be free for everybody. Yeah.
So is there any of the participants that would like to that would like to comment on the collaboration aspect of this workshop? Or Paolo, would you like to comment on something?
They're getting me into trouble.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I would like to congratulate all teams. I mean, you did an incredible job. I had the opportunity to speak to all of you in the beginning, the first day, and it's incredible to see the results, actually. So collaboration, well, what we're doing right now is exactly that, and following up on all the comments, I think, and Valentina knows this, I'm really interested in multidisciplinary teams collaborating together to find solutions. So I'm an IT engineer, and I'm spending more time with designers today than with actual IT engineers, and so I think that's crucial for us to find proper solutions, is to collaborate in multidisciplinary teams. Imagining the future like you guys have been doing is incredible. Particularly, I'm a sci-fi fan, so a little bit of that it looks like sci-fi, but when you look into the future, you have to think about things that are probably unimaginable today, but then we try to make it happen. We try to develop the technology to make that happen, and if you remember, I told you about the exponential evolution of technology. Some people believe that we are currently living through the era of the exponential era. And so a lot of things are going to happen really fast that we cannot predict. So a lot of the things that you are projecting today that seem impossible might be just around the corner. We don't know that, but if it's good for us, let me say, I will buy definitely a 3D printer that prints ice cream today, if you have it.
Paolo, just anticipate a little bit my comment because I speak about collaboration, and this was another big challenge that the students had to face in these 10 days, because these 40 students are coming from 3 different countries, so they speak different languages. No one is an English native speaker, so each one of us, has to deal with English and try to communicate with others. but also they have different backgrounds, so they have to force themselves to share their knowledge in order to make them understandable be understood by all the team, but also they have to be able to listen to the others. So this was very complex challenge, beside the fact that of course they had to solve the challenge and envision future scenarios, but also the collaboration was a very important aspect of those 10 days, and this is also part of the skills that are really required for the future, for digital challenges, because the projects are becoming complex and more complex, also integrating technologies. So it's very important to be able to integrate and merge all the different knowledge by different disciplines, and also to work in cross-functional teams in order to be able to apply technologies and envision future scenarios and so forth. So, you did a good job.
I would actually like to suggest that I know you have different topics for the different workshops you're giving, but maybe one of the topics would be collaboration, how to design for future collaboration, because without collaboration, future scenarios are pretty much doomed. And it's one of the bases of every project. And what I felt that we all gathered to get together to design for future, but with the tools that we brought from individual experience. And we know that sometimes mingling groups of people that have different backgrounds, it might not have a good result, just because the social relationships sometimes start to degrade. So this could be a topic, designing for human and non-human. Actually, we did a non-human, but the human part is important.
So we close? You, Anne-Claire, you want to say something? No. Elise? Yeah, we can. We give them? Yeah. Okay. So, sorry. We take, sure, facciamo in fretta. We do fast. We do the official part we want to thank the participants that managed to stay strong and continue hard in the process. I don't know if it's working. Yes. So we are giving the certificates of participation, and then we can move to a final cocktail. So like a quick drink again in the park behind the building, and continue to chat and network, and hopefully from here on we can build even more stuff together.
Yeah? Così lo diamo tutto.
Okay.
Okay. Guys, thank you so much for this experience. As Valentina said, we learn from you. And now we want to give you this certificate. And I can, I just, okay. Maria Genesis, sorry. Thank you, Maria. Ilaria, it's just Ilaria Bruno. Wow, wonderful job. Thank you so much. Erika Rodriguez. Erika. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Zachariah. Thank you so much. Clement. Clement. I don't know. Thank you so much, Clement. Vanessa. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Mark. Mark. Yeah. Our digital nomad. Thank you, Mark. Ala. Thank you, Ala. Thank you so much. Adriana. Thank you so much, Adriana. Camilla. Grazie. Julien. Or Julien. Thank you, Julien. Thank you. Alina? Thank you, Alina. Giuseppe. Giuseppe. Our mixed engineering design. Grazie. Grazie a voi. Clemens. Ah, okay. Thank you so much. Oh. Giulia. Wow. Grazie. Claudia. Obrigada. Joanna. Thank you so much for Filippo. It's more simple to say in Italian, okay? But
thank you.
Thank you. Bibi. I'm sorry, but I cannot read. Thank you so much. Marwa. Merci. Merci. Miki. Dov'è? Ah, là. Miki. Thank you so much. Thank you. Chiara. Dov'è? Ah, là. Non la vedevo. Grazie mille, grazie. Oh. Ah, Doulage. Because your first. Stella. Thank you so much. Grazie. Lucas. Merci, Lucas. Lori. Merci, Lori. Elisa. Grazie. Elisabette? Thank you. Yassine? Merci. Fanny? Merci. Greta? Grazie. Sirin? Oh, sì. It's correct?
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Luisa? Thank you so much. Obrigada. Emmanuel? Ah, no. Obrigada. Obrigada. Guilhem. Sorry. Guilhem. Sorry. Thank you so much. You are the first digital maturity enablers. Wow! Wonderful! Thank you! Wow! Yes! Yeah! Thank you. Now?
So now I invite everyone to go back to the garden, and there are drinks there, so we can keep talking. Let's start with one for each, then you can do double, and then maybe triple, depends how much.